Hey, well, tonight I'm angry at the letter K, and I'm talking about a K-shaped recovery. And what we talk about when we talk about a K-shaped recovery is a recovery that is different for different groups of people. One group of people sees the normal recovery, which is the vertically ascending line to the right of the K. The rest see a descending standard of living, which is the descending slope of the K. And we are seeing very disparate results. I'm going to pull this chart up. This is an image that shows that the Dow Jones today, on the 24th of November 2020, has hit 30,000, which is a new all-time high. People who own stocks, who own assets, are delighted. Let's contrast that with the people on the other side of the K, the people who are on the downward slope. The fact that you see enormous lines for food at food banks around the country. I've just seen lines outside of Dallas. You couldn't even count the number of cars. We are fragmenting into two different societies. It's not just the haves and the have-nots. It's the people who are sinking inexorably beneath the waves, people who are unable to keep going, people who are going to be homeless. You know, the moratorium on evictions, the moratorium on student loan repayments, these are all ending, along with government supplemental unemployment benefits. All of these things that are designed to help, quote unquote, the little man are all ending. Yet all the benefits for the people who have seen tremendous advantages during COVID-19 continue. If you're able to work from home, you've possibly been able to leave a very expensive state, move to a cheap state, work from home, and live as a rich man. If you are poor and desperate, if you worked in a restaurant, then you're bad off. If you owned the restaurant, you're worse off. If you owned the building that rented the space to the restaurant, you're even worse off. I mean, this is not going to end well for any of us. Those people who sit back, look at their 401k statements, look at the value of the stock market assets as it continues to go up. The Dow has just hit 30,000. This is at the same time as I don't think we've ever seen such economic dislocation in the heartland of America. And it's not just the heartland. Our big cities are struggling. Restaurants are closed. Civic activities are closed. People are leaving these cities. The cities are never going to be able to survive with the same budgets that they had before. None of them have cut their budgets. They all expect that a fairy godmother will save them, probably in the form of the federal government. If Biden's in charge, that may very well be true. But let's get back to the topic at hand, which is this recovery. And for some people, it's a positive recovery. And for other people, things just continue to get worse. Not only have they continued to get worse for the entirety of this year, but they're going to get dramatically worse at the end of the year. The fact that we seem to be two completely different countries, one group caring about what the stock market does because they have assets that continue to appreciate in value, the others desperately trying to hang on to any kind of income to feed their families. This disparity, this diversion between the two groups in this country, this is never going to end well. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you may look to the South American model and think, oh, that's great. There's a few people that have a lot of money, everybody else is desperate for money, we can get cheap labor. It doesn't work that way. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, and that doesn't just apply to kings worrying about being usurped. It also applies to rich people who worry about angry poor people. And the number of angry poor people is growing ferociously every day, while the number of rich people is diminishing. Even though their wealth seems to be accelerating at even greater rates, the number of actual rich people is diminishing, and the number of those of us desperately unhappy is increasing. Is this going to last? Is this going to be sustainable? I doubt it. You know, social upheaval comes abruptly and violently. You know, society represents groups of people working together. We are not. It's dog eat dog, every man for himself. These recoveries have gotten worse and worse. President Obama's recovery after the 2008-2009 recession was the weakest recovery on record. And here we are with a recovery that is so different for two different groups of people that it's hard to describe it as a recovery at all for most of us. If we continue down this path, we are going to fragment irreparably, irretrievably, and there's going to be violence. And I'm not talking about violence that can be easily suppressed, because the violence I'm talking about is going to come from people who are starving. And when people are starving, there's no stopping them. The disparity in wealth that is starting to exist in North America today rivals the worst that we've seen in South America. If we don't end this, if we don't have a recovery for all of us, everything will end badly here. It's going to be impossible to stop it. The greater the disparity becomes, the greater the pressure will be. And eventually, violence will overthrow that order and will start with something new, as has happened throughout history. This K-shaped recovery is a disaster for all of us. No matter how rich you feel, you are living on borrowed time. Please, let's try to wake up.